Hello aspirants, my name is Drishti Jain and I welcome you to the series of घटना सूत्र। मैं सबसे पहले अपना एक्सपीरियंस शेयर करती हूँ। मैं और मेरी यूपीएससी की दोस्ती काफ़ी पुरानी है। मैंने 3 सीएसई के मेंस और 2 फॉरेस्ट के मेंस और 2 इंटरव्यू दिए हुए हैं यूपीएससी में। मैं इस घटना सूत्र सीरीज़ में अपना पूरा एक्सपीरियंस आपके साथ शेयर करने की कोशिश करूँगी और किस तरीके से किस चीज़ को पढ़ा और याद किया जा सकता है, क्योंकि यूपीएससी में पढ़ाई तो सभी करते हैं लेकिन सही तरीके से और सही गाइडेंस के साथ पढ़ाई करना सबसे ज़्यादा इम्पॉर्टेंट है। इस वीडियो में हम पीटी 365 डिस्कस करेंगे जो कि काफ़ी क्रिस्प और कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव होगा, जो प्रीलिम्स के लिए इनफ और सफिशिएंट होगा। मेरी कोशिश रहेगी कि बहुत ही कम समय में आपका ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा करंट अफेयर्स बहुत अच्छी तरीके से रिवाइज हो जाए। एंड सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज़ हम साथ ही ट्राई करेंगे कि उसका स्टैटिक से लिंकेज और लास्ट 10 ईयर्स के प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन डिस्कस करेंगे। आप बस इस वीडियो को 3 से 4 बार अच्छे से देख लीजिए एंड आई एम श्योर कि आपका पूरा करंट अफेयर्स पीटी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से अच्छे से हो जाएगा। तो बिना देरी किए चलो लेट्स स्टार्ट पीटी 365।
Let's start from where we left, from the social issues PT 365. The next topic is Juvenile Justice Act 2015. Supreme Court, in its judgment in Child in Conflict with Law through his mother versus State of Karnataka case, dealt with provision for a preliminary assessment of CCL in heinous offences. An appeal against the preliminary assessment order of the Juvenile Justice Board would be filed before the Children's Court, not Sessions Court, wherever possible. Also, the court has prescribed 30 days time limit for preferring such appeals. The time period of 3 months prescribed for completion of preliminary assessment is not mandatory but merely directory in nature. ये थोड़ा डिटेल है, ये हमारे ज़्यादा काम का नहीं है। अब ये एक्ट हमारे काम का है, जुवेनाइल जस्टिस केयर एंड प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ चाइल्ड एक्ट, जेजे एक्ट 2015। तो कब का है ये? 2015 का एक्ट है। Defines child as a person who has not completed the age of 18 years. In 2015, it introduced a provision where a child in age group of 16 to 18 could be tried as an adult in case of heinous offences. तो क्या 16 से 18 एज तक को यदि उसने कुछ heinous crime किया तो उसको एडल्ट के जैसे ट्रीट कर सकते हैं। Juvenile Justice Board carries assessment to determine whether to try such a child as an adult or a minor. Institutional setup. Mandate setting up of Juvenile Justice Board and Child Welfare Committee in every district to deal with the cases of CCL. Special provisions for juvenile between 16 to 18 years who commit serious crimes under Section 15 of the JJ Act shall conduct a preliminary assessment to assess capacity of the child. After preliminary assessment, the Children Court may decide whether the child can be tried as an adult. Mandatory registration of child care institutions. All child care institutions, state-run, voluntary or NGOs intended to give shelter to children regardless of whether they receive government grants must be registered. Non-compliance is to be severely penalized. Juvenile Justice Amendment Act 2021. तो उसमें अडॉप्शन के लिए क्या बोला गया है? अडॉप्शन का कौन कौन देख सकता है? डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट इंक्लूडिंग एडिशनल डीएम्स कैन इशू अडॉप्शन ऑर्डर्स. Appeals. Any person aggrieved by an adoption order passed by the DM may file an appeal before the divisional commissioner within 30 days of such order. Designated court. All offences must be tried in Children's Court. Okay, now the next topic is Model Foster Care Guidelines 2024. Ministry of Women and Child Development released Model Foster Care Guidelines 2024. These guidelines are in consonance with Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children JJ Act 2015 and the JJ Model Rules 2016, Adoption Regulations 2022 and Mission Vatsalya. Foster care is the placement of a child in the domestic environment of a family other than the child's biological family. Such family is selected and approved by the Child Welfare Committee for providing foster care. Child Adoption Framework in India. एक institutional body है CARA, Center Adoption Regulatory Resource Authority, nodal body for adoption of Indian children and regulates in-country and inter-country adoptions. It is a statutory body of Ministry of Women and Child Development established under JJ Act 2015. CARA preliminary deals with adoption of orphan, abandoned and surrendered children through its associated recognized adoption agencies. Up key provisions in the revised guidelines. Children eligible for foster care. Children above 6 years age living in child care institutions or community including hard to place children. Children having special needs and children having unfit guardians. Eligibility to foster. Any person irrespective of marital status and whether they have A biological son or daughter तो कोई भी ले सकता है. Only married couple were eligible earlier. Okay. Allow single females to foster and adopt a child of any gender. However, single males can only do for male children. Spouse or couple shall have a stable marital relationship of 2 years. Foster adoption allows the foster parent who is already fostering the child for minimum 2 years as opposed to earlier 5 years to adopt the same child. Okay. Now, the other topic is other vulnerable sections. तो हम इसमें सबसे पहले पढ़ेंगे persons with disabilities के बारे में. The Right to Person with Disabilities Amendment Rules 2024 has been notified by the Union Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment under the Right to Person with Disabilities Act 2016. Key highlights of the amended rules. Required documents for disability certificate include proof of identity, recent photograph not older than 6 months, and Aadhaar card. Issuance authority. Medical authority or notified competent medical authority at district level in the district of residence of the applicant. Processing time extended from 1 month to 3 months. Applications to lapse or become inactive if undecided for over 2 years. Applicants must reapply or contact the authority to reactivate the application. About person with disabilities. Person with disability means a person with long-term physical, mental, intellectual or sensory impairment which in interaction with barriers hinders his full and effective participation in society equally with others. ये किसने डिफाइन किया है? राइट टू पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटी एक्ट 2016 में. Persons with disability constitute 2.21% of the total population as per census 2011. 69% of all PWDs live in rural areas, while 21% of all PWDs are elderly. Now, अब Right to Persons with Disabilities Act 2016 इस एक्ट में क्या क्या बोला गया है? To ensure that all PWDs can lead their lives with dignity, without discrimination and with equal opportunities. It was enacted to give effect to the United Nations Convention on Right of Persons with Disabilities, to which India is a signatory. Administered by Union Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Key provisions क्या है? It provides for a wide definition of PWDs, recognizing 21 types of disabilities, including acid attack victims. तो इसमें कौन कौन से acid attack victims भी है? देखो ये important है. Intellectual disability भी है और mental illness भी है. Right of PWDs. Governments are responsible for ensuring PWDs enjoy the right to equality, life with dignity and respect. Protection from abuse, cruelty, inhuman treatment, violence and exploitation. Other rights क्या क्या है? Right to home and family, reproductive right, accessibility in voting, the right to own and inherit property. तो ये सब right भी मिले हुए हैं. Persons with benchmark disabilities. Persons with at least 40% of a specified disability, whether defined in measurable terms or not, as certified by the relevant authority. Special provisions क्या इनके लिए? Right to free education for child 6 to 18 years. 14 years है ना generally, but disability वालों के लिए 6 to 18 years. 5% reservation. 4% था पहले, 5% हो गया. In government and government aided higher educational institutions and 4% reservation in government jobs. तो jobs में 4%, पढ़ाई में 5%. Government may incentivize employers in private sector to ensure that at least 5% of their workforce constitutes PWDs. Appointment of limited guardianship. If a PWD cannot make legally binding decisions even with support, limited guardianship is a joint decision-making system based on mutual understanding and trust between the guardian and the PWD. It follows the PWD's will and is limited to specific periods, decisions and situations. Social security mandates that the government to formulate necessary programs to safeguard the right of PWDs for an adequate standard of living to enable them to live independently or in the community. अब यहाँ पे ना देखो कलर कोडेड यूनिक डिसेबिलिटी आइडेंटिटी कार्ड और स्वावलंबन कार्ड बताया गया था. तो वाइट रहेगा यदि डिसेबिलिटी बिलो 40% है, येलो रहेगा यदि डिसेबिलिटी 40 से 80% है और ब्लू रहेगा यदि डिसेबिलिटी 80% से ज़्यादा है. ठीक है. अब प्रोविजंस फॉर इफेक्टिव इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ द एक्ट. तो क्या क्या प्रोविजंस बनाए गए जिससे एक्ट का अच्छे से इम्प्लीमेंटेशन हो पाए? सबसे पहले एडवाइजरी बोर्ड्स बने हैं पॉलिसी मेकिंग बॉडीज एट सेंट्रल एंड स्टेट लेवल. फिर फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट मिलता है नेशनल एंड स्टेट फंड्स टू सपोर्ट PWDs फाइनेंशियली. फिर चीफ कमिश्नर एंड कमिश्नर्स अपॉइंटेड ऑफिशियल सेफगार्डिंग राइट्स एट सेंट्रल एंड स्टेट लेवल्स. फिर पेनाल्टीज, फाइन्स फॉर ब्रीचिंग प्रोविजंस ऑफ द एक्ट. फिर रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज हैं स्ट्रेंथेंड बॉडीज फॉर मॉनिटरिंग एंड ग्रीवियंस रिट्रेसल. फिर स्पेशल कोर्ट्स एंड प्रोसिक्यूटर्स फॉर ट्राइंग ऑफेंसेस अंडर द एक्ट. नाउ स्टेप्स टेकन फॉर welfare of PWDs, policies and legislations. National Policy for PWDs 2006, और नेशनल लेजिस्लेशंस क्या है? रिहेबिलिटेशन काउंसिल ऑफ इंडिया एक्ट 1992, नेशनल ट्रस्ट फॉर द वेलफेयर ऑफ पर्सन्स विद ऑटिज्म, सेरेब्रल प्लासी, मेंटल रिटार्डेशन एंड मल्टीपल डिसेबिलिटीज एक्ट 1999, राइट ऑफ पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटी एक्ट 2016, मेंटल हेल्थ केयर एक्ट 2017. Schemes. Scheme for implementing of Persons with Disability Act 1995. Accessible India Campaign, Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan 2015. Assistance to disabled persons for purchase fitting of AIDS assistive devices. National Action Plan for Skill Training of PWDs. Deen Dayal Disabled Rehabilitation Scheme. India is also a signatory to the following international initiatives. Adoption of Incheon strategy. ये important है, जिससे पूछ सकता है कि Incheon strategy क्या चीज़ के लिए है. To make the right real for persons with disabilities in Asia and Pacific. Declaration on the full participation and equity of people with disabilities in the Asia Pacific region. Bivako Millennium Framework. तो कौन सा framework? Bivako Millennium Framework, working towards an inclusive, barrier-free and rights-free society. Related news. UN Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities. 17th session on the Conference of State Parties to UN CRPD took place in New York with the theme Rethinking Disability Inclusion in the Current International Juncture and Ahead of the Summit of the Future. About UN CRPD. Adopted New York in 2006, came into force in 2008. Objective: to promote, protect and ensure the full and equal enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedoms by all persons with disabilities and to promote respect for their inherent dignity. Persons with disabilities include those who have long-term physical, mental, intellectual or sensory impairments. Members 164 countries including India. Okay. Now next. धरती आबा जनजाति ग्राम उत्सर्ग अभियान, उत्कर्ष अभियान, ठीक है, PMJUGA. Prime Minister launched the Dharti Aba Janjati Gram Utkarsh Abhiyan, also known as Pradhan Mantri Janjati Unnat Gram Abhiyan, for improving the socio-economic conditions of tribal communities. तो ये नई स्कीम है, ये इंपॉर्टेंट है हमारे एग्जाम पर्सपेक्टिव से, प्रीलिम्स और मेंस दोनों ये पूछा जा सकता है. फीचर्स क्या है? द स्कीम इज नेम्ड आफ्टर बिरसा मुंडा, जिनको बोलते थे धरती आबा. बिरसा मुंडा को क्या बोलते थे? धरती आबा. द ट्राइबल लीडर जिन्होंने उलगुलन मूवमेंट स्टार्ट किया था. Objective: it envisions saturation of critical gaps in the social infrastructure, health, education, livelihood through different schemes by convergence and outreach. Based on learnings and success of PM Janman. Funding: from existing development action plan for scheduled tribes, grants allocated under the central sector and central sponsored schemes. Tenure 5 years के लिए 2024-25 to 28-29. Coverage: this will cover around 63,000 villages benefiting more than 5 crore tribal people. Mission components: it comprises of 25 interventions which will be implemented by 17 line ministries. Funds to be allocated under Development Action Plan for scheduled tribes in the next 5 years. Mapping and monitoring: tribal villages covered under the Abhiyan would be mapped and monitored on PM Gati Shakti portal. Now, goals under the mission. Goal 1: developing enabling infrastructure, to SDG 9. Pakka house for eligible households with other entitlements under PM Awas Gramin with availability of tapped water, Jal Jeevan Mission and electricity supply. Access to Ayushman Bharat card, PM Jan Arogya Yojana. Next is improving village infrastructure. Ensuring all-weather connectivity to ST majority villages, PM Gram Sadak Yojana. Provide access to mobile connectivity, BharatNet and Internet. Infrastructure for improving health, nutrition and education, National Health Mission, Samagra Shiksha and Poshan. Goal 2. Promotion of economic empowerment, that is SDG 8. Skill development, entrepreneurship promotion and enhanced livelihood, self-employment. Providing access to training under Skill India Mission and ensuring that ST boys and girls make access to long-term skill courses after 10th or 12th standard every year. Marketing support through Tribal Multipurpose Marketing Center, TMMC. Tourist homestays and agriculture, animal husbandry and fishery support for FRA Patta holders. Third is universalization of access to good education, SDG 4. To increase gross enrollment ratio to the national levels, to make quality education affordable and accessible to ST students, Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan by setting up tribal hostels in schools at district or block level. Goal 4. Healthy lives and dignified aging, to ensure enhanced access to quality health facilities to ST households, to reach towards the national standards in infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, coverage of immunization through mobile medical units in areas where sub-center is more than 10 km in plain areas and 5 km in hilly areas under National Health Mission. Innovative schemes under PMJUGA. Tribal homestays. To tap the tourist potential, 1,000 homestays will be promoted under Swadesh Darshan and Ministry of Tourism. Sustainable livelihood forest right holders. Mission has special focus on 22 lakh FRA patta holders and convergence of different schemes. Improving infrastructure of government residential schools or hostels through upgradation on the lines of PM Shri schools. Advanced facilities for diagnosis of sickle cell disease. Center of competence would be set up in AIIMS and premier institutions in the states where the SCD is prevalent. Tribal Multipurpose Marketing Center. 100 TMMCs will be set up to enable the tribal producers to get right price for their produce, minimizing post-harvest losses and facilitate the consumers in buying tribal produce. Now, the next topic is particularly vulnerable tribal groups. District level committee approves habitat rights for Juangs of Keonchar and Mankidia tribes PVTGs in Odisha. तो बेसिकली ये पूछ सकता है ये ट्राइब्स कौन कौन से स्टेट में हैं. तो जुआंग्स ऑफ केउंझार एंड मनकीडिया ट्राइब्स, ओके, ओडिशा में. उसके बाद देखो हैबिटेट राइट्स क्या होते हैं. हैबिटेट राइट्स आर गिवन टू पीवीटीजीज अंडर सेक्शन 3(1)(e) ऑफ द शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब्स एंड अदर ट्रेडिशनल फॉरेस्ट ड्वेलर्स रिकॉग्निशन ऑफ फॉरेस्ट राइट, दैट इज FRA एक्ट. FRA defines habitat as the area comprising customary habitat and such other habitats in reserved and protected areas. कहाँ पे reserved and protected forest of primitive tribal groups, pre-agricultural communities and other forest dwelling STs. Habitat rights are recorded after a sequence of consultation with the stakeholder involved. Tribes having habitat rights. तो कहाँ ओडिशा में 7 है. पौड़ी भुयांस of देवगढ़, साउरा tribes of गजपति, जुआंग्स in केउंझार and जजपुर district, चुक्तिया भुंजिया of नुआपाड़ा and हिल खादिया of मयूरभंज, डोंगरिया कोंच and मनकीरिया tribes. मध्य प्रदेश में भारियास को, छत्तीसगढ़ में कमार्स एंड बेगास को और महाराष्ट्र में मारिया गोंड को. यहाँ पे एक बार मैप देख लो डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ पीवीटीजीज इन इंडिया. तो राजस्थान में 1 है, गुजरात में 5 है, महाराष्ट्र में 3, कर्नाटका में 2, केरला में 5, तमिलनाडु में 6, अंडमान में 5, आंध्र प्रदेश में और तेलंगाना में मिला के 12, उड़ीसा में 13, वेस्ट बंगाल में 3, फिर मणिपुर में 1, फिर त्रिपुरा में 1, बिहार और झारखंड में मिला के 9, यूपी में 2, यूपी और उत्तराखंड में 2, MP और CG में 7. Now about PVTGs. Government has recognized 75 PVTGs. So कितने 75 PVTGs spread across 18 states and 1 UT based on the recommendation of the Dhebar Committee. कौन सी कमिटी? ढेबर कमिटी 1960-61 में जो बनी थी. Odisha houses 13 PVTGs which is highest among all states and UTs. Criteria for identifying PVTGs. Forest-based livelihood, a pre-agricultural level of existence, a stagnant and declining population, extremely low literacy and a subsistence economy. Development of particularly vulnerable tribal group schemes. Aim: comprehensive socio-economic development of PVTG while retaining their culture and heritage. Centrally sponsored scheme with 100% central assistance in the form of funding, grants and aid and creation of capital assets. Financial assistance is provided to the states UT under the scheme for activities like education, housing, agriculture development, strengthening of infrastructure through construction of community assets, installation of non-conventional sources of energy for lighting purpose, social security, etc. Micro-plan approach through formulation of conservation cum development plans. Ranking of PVTG population in different states, 2001 census, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Jharkhand. Now the next topic is denotified tribes. Supreme Court in Sukanya Santha versus Union of India and others case struck down provisions of prison manuals of several states as per which jobs were assigned to prisons based on castes. तो ये तो गलत ही है, कास्ट के हिसाब से यदि हो रहा है तो. Key issues highlighted in the case include persistent caste-based discrimination in prisons which reflect to segregation of barracks, division of manual labor and provisions that discriminate against prisoners belonging to denotified tribes and habitual offenders. अब यहाँ बॉक्स में आ जाओ. अबाउट नोमेटिक एंड सेमी नोमेटिक ट्राइब्स. ऑल नोमेटिक ट्राइब्स आर नॉट डीनोटिफाइड ट्राइब्स बट ऑल डीनोटिफाइड ट्राइब्स आर नोमेटिक ट्राइब्स. तो बोल रहे हैं जितने भी नोमेटिक ट्राइब्स है सब डीनोटिफाइड ट्राइब्स नहीं है, लेकिन जितने भी डीनोटिफाइड ट्राइब्स हैं वो सब नोमेटिक ट्राइब्स हैं. Nomads and semi-nomads are special groups who undertake a fairly frequent, usually seasonal physical movement as part of their livelihood strategy and move from one place to another. 3 types of nomadic communities. Hunter-trappers of birds and animals, game etc. such as Khonda Rettis, Chenchus etc. Pastoral communities such as Pardis, Gujjars, Banjaras, Bhil, Kurabas and Maduras. Peripatetic group of peddlers, fortune tellers, storytellers, acrobats, dancers, dramatists, etc. Now, next अपन पढ़ते हैं court struck down caste-based discrimination within prison walls as unconstitutional for being violative of Article 14, 15, 17, 21 and 23 of the Constitution. About denotified tribes and habitual offenders. Denotified tribes and most vulnerable and deprived are communities that are notified as being both born criminal during British regime under the Criminal Tribes Act 1871. तो जिनको बॉर्न क्रिमिनल बोला जाता था, ये हाईलाइट कर लेते हैं अपन, अंडर द क्रिमिनल ट्राइब्स एक्ट 1871. These are a heterogeneous group engaged in various occupations such as transport, key making, salt trading, entertainment, acrobats, snake charmers, jugglers, etc., pastoralists, etc. Criminal Tribes Act 1871 was repealed in 1949 and subsequently criminal tribes were denotified in 1952. Several denotified tribes were included in STs, SCs and other backward classes lists because they come from diverse social backgrounds. As per the Rainke Committee, there are nearly 15,000 nomadic and semi-nomadic tribes and 198 denotified tribes comprising 15 crore Indians. तो कितने हो गए? 15 करोड़, ये बहुत ज़्यादा है. August 31 is celebrated as Vimukta Jatiya Divas by DNTs in India. Habitual offenders are defined as Habitual Offenders Act of respective states to categorize persons who have been convicted of multiple crimes and are categorized and are considered a danger to society. Idate Commission recommended to immediately repeal Habitual Offenders Act by the respective states as it gives scope for harassment of the members of DNTs. Other steps taken by the government for DNTs. National Commission for Denotified Nomadic and Semi-Nomadic Tribes to prepare a statewide list of castes belonging to DNTs. Dr. Ambedkar Pre-Metric and Post-Metric Scholarship for DNT Boys and Girls. Centrally sponsored scheme for educational empowerment of DNTs who are not covered under SC, ST, OBC category. Nanaji Deshmukh scheme of construction of hostels for DNT boys and girls. Centrally sponsored scheme would be run through state governments' UT administrations. Scheme for economic empowerment of DNT communities. Launched by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment to provide free competitive exam coaching to DNT students, provide health insurance to families, etc. Development and Welfare Board for Denotified Nomadic and Semi-Nomadic Communities constituted in 2019. Okay, now the next topic is education. Early childhood care and education. Ministry of Women and Child Development launched Ardhashila, a national curriculum for early childhood care and education for children from 3 to 6 years. ये important है. Sorry, it's not Ardhashila, it is Adharshila. I'm very, very sorry. About Adharshila. Adharshila, translated as foundation stone, is a detailed 48-week curriculum meant for learning in the age group of 3 to 6 years old. In Anganwadis, the curriculum includes a weekly based play calendar with 4 weeks of initiation that include academic activities to help children transition from home to Anganwadi center by engaging them in fun and free play. Next 36 weeks are spent in exploring free play conversation, creation and appreciation, reflection that involves various activities including storytelling, singing rhymes, art and craft and so on. Last 8 weeks are spent in recap and reinforcing learnings of various weeks with worksheets and observation of kids' performance. It will serve as a base for states to develop their own culturally appropriate curriculum seen as a solution to tackle later school challenges of children. Key features of Adharshila. Based on Panchakosh concept. Physical development, Sharirik Vikas, development of life energy, Pranik Vikas, emotional or mental development, Mansik Vikas, intellectual development, Bauddhik Vikas, and spiritual development, Chaitsik Vikas. Teaching language and literacy in early years. Focus on developing children's emergent mathematical and literary skills like print awareness, drawing, scribbling, etc. Positive learning habits, that is, execution function and self-regulation skills. Focus on establishing routines, establish an atmosphere of positive relationship, empowering the child to lead and make independent choices. Play as learning. Knowledge acquired through play becomes a lasting part of the child's experience. Example, puzzles, story creation, language, and maths games. Others, embracing learning diversity in the Anganwadi center is crucial for Anganwadi educators. Ensuring gender equality from an early age is crucial because gender initiation and internalization start early, influencing children's self-concept, aspirations, and behavior. Divyang inclusion. Anganwadi protocol for Divyang children was released by the Ministry of Women and Child Development in 2023, providing for screening, inclusion, and referrals of children with disabilities. About ECCE. ECCE is defined as the care and education of children from birth to 8 years. 85% of brain development occurs before the age of 6 years. Legal and policy framework for ECCE in India. Article 45 क्या बोलता है? Directs the state to provide for ECCE until the age of 6 years. RTE Act 2009. Government to make necessary arrangements for preschool education. National ECCE Policy 2013. National Education Policy 2020 recommended a sub-framework for 0 to 3 years old under the National Curricular and Pedagogical Framework for Early Childhood Care and Education. National Curriculum Framework for Foundational Stage 2022 provides guidelines tailored for fostering quality ECCE for 3 to 6 years and the age group of 0 to 3 years. अब अदर इनिशिएटिव्स फॉर ECCE. तो नेशनल लेवल पे क्या क्या है और ग्लोबल लेवल पे क्या क्या है. मिशन शक्ति, पालना एंड PM मातृ वंदना योजना. सक्षम आंगनवाड़ी एंड पोषण 2.0 includes ECCE 3 to 6 years as a primary vertical. Integrated child development services to ensure responsive care, early learning and development which includes physical and motor language. ग्लोबल लेवल पे क्या है? ग्लोबल पार्टनरशिप स्ट्रैटेजी फॉर अर्ली चाइल्डहुड बाय यूनेस्को टू इंश्योर दैट ECCE अर्ली चाइल्डहुड डेवलपमेंट and early childhood investment services are fully inclusive, accessible, affordable, gender responsive and equitable for each child. Convention on Rights of Child 1989 and Education for All 1990, which has postulated ECCE as the very first goal to be achieved for education for all since learning begins at birth. India is also a signatory to both. The next topic is Nav Chetna, National Framework for Early Childhood Stimulation. Nav Chetna, National Framework for Early Childhood Stimulation released by Ministry of Women and Child Development for children from birth to 3 years. Key highlights क्या है? Objective to empower caregivers and Anganwadi workers for holistic early stimulation through responsive caregiving and opportunities for early learning for optimal development of children. Document emphasizes on 2 to 5 components of nurturing care framework, responsive caregiving, and creating opportunities for early learning. Nurturing care framework for early childhood development was provided by WHO in 2018. Entails 36 sets of activities for children from months 0 to 36 for holistic stimulation of child's cognitive, socio-emotional, language, physical and creative development. अब ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है इसका ECS का? इसको देख लेते हैं एक बार. Ensure the healthy development of the child through breastfeeding, immunization, etc. Develop trust and emotional security in the child by making them feel loved, valued and safe. Stimulate the child's intellectual curiosity. Enhance the child's language development by talking, reading and singing to them. Develop adequate muscular coordination, basic motor skills and personal hygiene habits. About early childhood stimulation. The framework for stimulation 0 to 3 years aims to fill the gaps in implementing care and stimulation from birth until the first 3 years of a child's growth. The framework guides engagement inside the home as well as at Anganwadi centers or creches. To facilitate inclusion of children with disabilities, an age-appropriate screening tool has been included. तो यहाँ पे हम ये वाली वीडियो को ख़त्म करते हैं. In the next video, we will discuss about the next topics. That is, we will start from higher education in India. I hope यहाँ तक आप सभी को समझ आया होगा. तब तक के लिए thank you.